Yoda was one of the most powerful Jedi that the Order had ever seen. After his own master, Nikata del Gormo, discovered that Yoda was Force-sensitive, it only took a while before he was sent to Coruscant on a Republic ship in order to learn at the temple. That was only a century or so after the final battle of Ruusan in the year 1000 BBY, which marked the last great conflict between Jedi and Sith. After that moment, it would take a full millennium before the Sith would rise to power again, marked by Emperor Palpatine's reign. During almost all of that time, Yoda trained as a Jedi and soon became the Grandmaster of the Order. He became so powerful that he was able to outduel almost anyone else, catch and redirect Sith lightning, and even lift several billion pounds in weight, which he proved when fighting a dark-side mountain on the distant world in the Vagadar system. But even with all his power, Yoda fell to Darth Sidious during the duel on the Senate floor, and that might make you wonder what other Sith Lords could defeat him. Today we're going to take a look. Number 6. Darth Kaldoth. Darth Kaldoth was a Derosian Sith Lord that only survives in the dark legends and fables of the galaxy. If we take a guess, we can say that he might have lived during the 1,000 years of peace during the High Republic era. During that time, the Jedi believed that they had exterminated the Sith, but in truth, the Dark Sect simply went into hiding. Darth Bane helped them achieve that goal by creating the Rule of Two, so that there were only ever two Sith at one time, a master and an apprentice. We guess that Kaldoth was alive during the High Republic because he too followed the Rule of Two as set forth by Bane. But to be completely honest, one of Kaldoth's most famous achievements was defeating the greatest Jedi of his time. And since the Jedi of High Republic era thought that the Sith were extinct, it's strange that no Jedi records make a big deal of their sudden reappearance with Darth Kaldoth. But that's a conversation for a different time. When we look at Kaldoth, we can see one of the most powerful Sith Lords ever. With his mastery of Sith lore, he was able to conjure spells that would freeze his opponents in stone for eternity. And when he faced off against the Night Sisters of Dathomir, Kaldoth's superior telepathic skills allowed him to trap the consciousness of a powerful Night Sister within his own mind, leaving her body to die in the physical world. Kaldoth even took on the most powerful Jedi of his generation, Bran Athmarath. The pair fought for hours in an even match, but Kaldoth eventually won. When we look back at Yoda, it's always hard to tell who would win in a hypothetical matchup, but considering that Kaldoth was an expert on Sith lore and also an accomplished Form 7 duelist, he would have surely given Yoda a hard time. Number 5. Exar Kun. 4,000 years before Palpatine came to power, Exar Kun resurrected the Sith Empire. Kun was originally a student at the Jedi Temple on Dantooine. There he studied under one of the greatest lightsaber instructors that the Order had ever seen, Vodo Siask Bos. But Kun, like Anakin Skywalker nearly 4 millennia later, was obsessed with the secret archives of the Jedi Order. Often, Kun would sneak into his master's collection of holocrons and listen to stories of ancient dark-side sects and long ago vanquished Sith spirits. Hurt that his master didn't trust him with forbidden texts, Kun abandoned the Order to find Sith lore on his own. This eventually led him to the tomb of Freedon Nad on the monster moon known as Dixun. With Nad's Sith spirit as his guide, Kun made one more stop in the tombs of Korriban and finally accepted the title of Sith. With his new power, Exar Kun was able to vanquish his Sith master Freedon Nad, who was also able to project pure beams of dark-side energy which he used to defeat one of Naga Sadow's ancient Sith spawns in the pits of the Temple of Yavin IV. And in a rematch with his master Vodo Siask Bos on the Senate floor of Coruscant, Exar Kun easily overwhelmed the famed lightsaber expert. When we compare Kun to Yoda, it's easy to see just how hard a fight it would be to win. But considering Kun's ability to project not just Force lightning, but pure dark-side beams of energy, it's easy to see how he could win. Number 4. Naga Sadow. Naga Sadow was a Sith Lord who predates Exar Kun's empire by over 1,000 years, a full 5 millennia before Emperor Palpatine came to power. Sadow was a fledgling lord in the Sith Empire. At that time, the natives of Korriban were limited to a small slice of Outer Rim territories, and in fact didn't actually know how to navigate Republic space very reliably. It wasn't until a pair of hyperlane explorers touched down in Sith space that the Sith rediscovered the path back to the Mid-Rim and Core worlds. Sadow targeted one of the explorers that made him his own Sith apprentice, and after Marka Ragnos' death and a brief battle against a rival Sith Lord, Sadow became the Dark Lord of the Sith. With complete control over Sith forces, Sadow launched an invasion of Republic space and used the dark side to create an illusion that his forces were even more powerful than they actually were. Eventually, he was defeated, But his life didn't end there. The Sith Lord fled to Yavin 4, where he spent years studying Sith alchemy, producing some of the most violent and terrifying beasts that would haunt the galaxy in the centuries to come. Although Sadow wasn't among the greatest duelists in the Sith, it'd be interesting to see him face off against Yoda. Like Darth Kaldoth, Sadow was far more skilled in Sith magic and spells. If given enough time to prepare, it's likely that Sadow could have used his creations, like the giant serpent that nearly killed Exar Kun, to successfully defeat Grandmaster Yoda. Number 3. Darth Nihilus. Darth Nihilus was an ancient Sith Lord who lived only a few decades after the fall of Exar Kun's new empire. But unlike the other Sith who preceded him, Darth Nihilus had a unique affliction. During a war against the Mandalorians, Nihilus was one of the victims of a superweapon known as the Mass Shadow Generator. Darth Nihilus should have died, but instead, using his own strength in the Force, he survived. As a permanent blight on the living Force, Nihilus's existence was one of the darkest stains on the galaxy, and in order to survive, Nihilus needed to feed off others' Force powers. At times, this led the Sith to consume the combined life force of an entire planet's inhabitants, including a hall of Jedi Knights and Masters. If Yoda had been the victim of one of Nihilus's feedings, it's hard to see how the Grandmaster would have fared better than his Jedi predecessors, and it's likely that Yoda would have fell just as well. Number 2. Darth Vitiate. Darth Vitiate is one of the oldest Sith on the list. Even though he only made himself known to the Galactic Republic in the years after the Jedi Civil War, Darth Vitiate was actually born in 5113. He was a subordinate of Marka Ragnos, the Dark Lord of the Sith who preceded Naga Sadow. During Ragnos' rule, the Sith Lord witnessed firsthand just how cunning Darth Vitiate was, and rewarded him with the rule of a planet. Eventually, after Naga Sadow lost a majority of Sith forces in the Great Hyperspace War, Darth Vitiate lured the Sith forces to his side. Over the following years, Darth Vitiate used his mastery of Sith alchemy to prolong his life, and for over a millennium he ruled the Sith in secret. Much like Palpatine manipulated the Republic from afar, Darth Vitiate spurred Mandalore, the Ultimate, to attack the Jedi, sparking the Mandalorian War. And afterwards, it was Darth Vitiate who turned two powerful Jedi and orchestrated the Jedi Civil War. In the end, Darth Vitiate was defeated by the combined efforts of his own Enforcer and the Jedi. When he tried to, once again, control the galaxy through his spiritual form, he fell to a collection of young Jedi and their Grandmaster. When we look at Darth Vitiate, we have to remember that we're looking at possibly the most powerful Sith in the galaxy. Although Darth Sidious claimed the title in later years, Darth Vitiate's ability and mastery of Sith lore are hard to debate with, and as a 10-year-old, through the Force alone, he was able to defeat his own father, a far more powerful Sith Lord in his own right, and his skills in Sith alchemy far surpassed Naga Sadow, thanks to Vitiate's long life. But perhaps his greatest feat was his telepathy and mind control. Just as Darth Kaldoth was able to trap the consciousness of a single Night Sister, Darth Vitiate could do the same with thousands of powerful Sith Lords. With his mastery of the Force alone, it's easy to see how Darth Vitiate might be able to undo Yoda in a battle. Number 1. Marka Ragnos. We've already mentioned this Sith Lord earlier, but Marka Ragnos deserves a spot on this list as well. He was both Naga Sadow and Darth Vitiate's predecessor, and one of the most ruthless Sith Lords to ever live. When compared to other members of the Order, Marka Ragnos seems more like a classical warlord than a manipulative, scheming Sith. Armed with a scepter, he bludgeoned his enemies in combat and led his armies to victory. He also had a lightsaber, but more often than not used an ancient Sith sword forged through dark side alchemy. In his campaigns around Sith space, like the Ghost of Freedon Nod and Darth Vitiate, Marka Ragnos manifested his consciousness after death. As a phantom, he was the Sith Lord that bestowed the title of Sith on both Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma just before the pair launched their invasion on Republic space in 4000 BBY. Although Marka Ragnos' feats are mostly centered around his brutal rule as Dark Lord of the Sith, he was still quite an imposing bruiser-like duelist. In a battle against Yoda, he'd likely rely on his overwhelming physical advantages to overpower the Grandmaster. Although that strategy rarely worked for Yoda's opponents, the lightsaber technique that the Grandmaster utilized was notoriously vulnerable to larger enemies. When we take a look back at these Sith Lords, they represent some of the most powerful dark side users that the galaxy has ever seen. Even though Yoda would surely give them each a good fight and possibly would win quite a few of them, it's hard to ignore the fact that many of these Sith, much like Darth Sidious in the aftermath of the Clone Wars, would be able to defeat the Grandmaster. What do you think? Would these Sith overwhelm Yoda in a duel?